Hi, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I want to thank, this is Aurora, who has all of these stories and about dealing with the ET. She's an ET experiencer. She's also dealing with the Council of Eight now. And we're going to deep dive into all that and some pictures that she has shown. But I'm going to say hello to everybody who's in the chat here. Um, I wasn't prepared. She and I have been talking a lot in the background. So hey, Jen Carr. Hey, Susie 007. Susie's in the background. She'll be watching the chat, and we'll take a few questions at the end. But Aurora has so much information to give us. I'm not sure we're going to get there, but maybe the last 15 minutes we'll take a couple of questions. Hey, Ginger Sky. Hey, Cheryl. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, White Dragon. Driving to Miami. Okay. Oh, you're on the phone. Okay. All right. Be safe. Hey, Juno, thanks for joining us today. Hey, Deep Albuquerque. Hey, Cheryl. Speaking of an artist, Deep Albuquerque, she's an artist. And let's see, who else is here? Hey, Chris MK. And there's Ginger Sky Albuquerque. Hey, Faye Cole. Hey, M. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, Patty 73. Hey, Rossi. Hey, Liz Daly. Hey, Spirit Detective. Dream Journey 1. I'm glad to see you today, too. I'm glad to see all of you. Hey, Book Bewitched. Thanks for joining us. We have all these people in the chat, or they're all going to be interested in your conversation. So I don't even know where to hardly begin on your journey. I think we're going to back up a little bit and talk about our journey and how we met. We were in a group, an Exoconscious group. Is how we met. And Aurora's journey is like I was ahead of her, but her journey was the same as mine. And I mean, and I think maybe we were to meet so I could tell her she was okay. She's okay. Yeah. And all these things are happening, and you are doing this. And she had the most fascinating story about going on a spaceship. And can you give us a little background on that? Hey, Hypnicity. Hey, Stacy. Thanks for joining us today. Can you give us a little bit, just a snippet of that before we get into, because we've got an important conversation about the Council of Eight. So go ahead and give us a little snippet, catch us up to where we are today for people who don't even know you.
Well, just like every other starseed here, grew up not belonging, sad, depressed, and so on. So I'm not even going to go cover that. We're all in the same boat, so to speak. But, some things started happening in 2020 when I had my awakening, and I was looking for some support. My husband is supportive, but I needed a community of support. And that's how I came across the Exoconsciousness community through Kevin Briggs, actually. And that's how I met you, Gail. And that's pretty much where my journey started to take some sort of shape, a little bit more focus as to what was gonna happen to me. So yeah, running into you really did help me to realize that, and the confirmation that I got from some of the information that you and I shared, it really helped me to recognize that there's nothing wrong with what's happening. It's perfectly fine. And it's just a matter of letting go, going with it, and having fun. So now I'm still with the Exoconscious community, and I've joined a different group now. Kevin Briggs is a part of that group. And we are basically...
Is he a part of the other group? Is he a part of the other group? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this is a different group that you and I were in. This is a different group. That was an ongoing group. Those guys had known each other for a while. And after the first coaching, I joined them. And I think we've been together for, I don't know, maybe not quite a year. But it's a very supportive community. And we are practicing meditation before we start. And that kind of really helps us to coordinate and become a very cohesive group.
Can you share who that group is?
Sure. Kevin Briggs is in it. Nick Pestera. I don't know if I'm saying it.
Oh, is it a personal, private group?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you who's there, but I don't know if you know them.
That's okay. I was thinking you were talking about a general, so people could go look at it.
No. This is just for the Exoconsciousness community. And I think I sent you a link for that. We're they're growing. They're, moving on to Substack, and people are becoming very, very interested in it's spreading, which is good because, that means that more and more people are waking up to the reality of what's going on.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so,
But, yeah.
Also, you were probably one of the most vivid description of somebody who was going up to the spaceship and working and actually talking about, because I always had my own little spaceship and I would go in a different way that you would go in. So I thought that was interesting because I hadn't had anybody who talked about that. And so if you could give just a real brief description of that to catch up the people who have not heard that story before, just really quickly tell them how that.
That was very exciting and very interesting. I was in training for part of the training program was to basically help out with all the energies that Earth, or the changes that Earth is going through, and sort of balance out some of the energy so that, it's a gradual ascension and people just don't freak out. I don't know to what extent we were successful, but anyway. So yeah, it was a very, very vivid experience about basically getting on this, what looked like a private jet that had been converted to, different, some kind of different propulsion system that did not involve the use of fossil fuel. And yeah, I would get on this little shuttle, and I was joined by a few other humans, and it was like, okay, we're just going to work. And we would literally fly up into space to this mothership that was absolutely horrendous. I mean, it was huge, just huge. I could not see the end of it. And my job was towards, the front half, I guess you could call it. I could see the one end of the ship, but I couldn't see the other. So I was closer to the front, or at least what I thought was the front. And it was very interesting boarding this ship because the shuttle would drop us off in this huge hangar that was near the bottom of the ship. We would slide in there, and there were so many other ships and other beings there. It was literally like a busy airport. And I would get out of this shuttle and then proceed to this single passenger pod, I guess I could call it. I would get in that, and it would automatically take me exactly where I needed to go. Basically come out of that, of the portal where all the ships went in. I would come out and go around the side of the ship to this docking station that was near where I was supposed to be. And this personal pod would just lock into that. And then when I came out of it, I wasn't going directly into the ship. There was this little room, very similar to what the astronauts go through, the pressurizing and depressurizing kind of idea, but it wasn't for that. It was to basically clean my energy field and readjust me so that I was aligned and my energy flow was optimal. And it was like some sort of a energy shower. I can't quite describe it, but I would feel so aligned and so healthy and well when I left there that it was a lot easier for me to actually maintain a positive state of being, a positive state of mind. That was really important once I got on the ship, because all those ETs that I ran into communicated telepathically. So if I showed up there, upset with my husband or my neighbor, that affects everybody around me in a way that I don't want to affect anyone. Plus, it's not very productive. So that was one of the things that I understand humans went through, is we would get realigned, energetically realigned, so that we would be able to interface with these ETs at, an equal level. And the Arcturian I worked with, he was phenomenal. The patience, the compassionate love this being would just radiate in my direction. I mean, he made me feel so special. And the most precious memory I have of him was that he was trying to vocalize my name, Aurora. He wanted to vocalize my name because he communicated telepathically. He didn't have the structures that we have, the vocal cords, the whole apparatus that we have to pronounce words. So he was just basically pushing air out of his, I don't know what body part, probably lungs or something like it. He was just trying to change the shape of his mouth and push out air to pronounce my name. And it wasn't anywhere near close to saying Aurora, but the fact that he was trying so hard to do that, because the way he saw it is I was communicating with him in his, not language, but in his modality of communication. And so he wanted to, I guess, speak to me in my modality of communication, just sort of as a, appreciation or respect or affirmation, or it was all out of love, all of it. And it would just bring me to tears when I would hear him make those sounds, trying to say my name. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. It really was. Yeah, I'll never forget that. But that training has ended. That went on for a while. And then I worked with one gray in particular who taught me how to fly a spaceship, a conscious spaceship, with integrating my consciousness into it. That was very interesting. They thought it was really funny that I would fly around basically like a fly with my head cut off, because it's really important to be able to focus your mind.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, that's hardest part is not letting all that other stuff come in, and they just don't quite understand how humans, we have so many things that we can't comprehend like that. Yeah, we can't gather ourselves together to focus on it. But yeah, that was mine. But if a thought popped in my head, I mean, because one of the times I would like just look at an ant on Earth, and we'd go
exactly. And the thing is, though, with our busy minds, we also have the capacity to multitask, which I've noticed other ETs don't, because they're so hyper focused on whatever it is that they're doing. So, I don't know. I guess busy mind, blessing or a curse. I guess it depends on how you look at it. It would be nice to be able to have the control to operate in both of those types of domains, be able to multitask and be able to focus at will. But I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of these ET races really do look up to human beings. We have the creativity and the potentials for so many more different tricks than some of them are able, or abilities. I didn't mean tricks. I'm just trying to be humorous, but we have the capacity for many, many more abilities than a lot of these ET races have.
Right.
So, being human is actually a perk.
I know. And then we look at them and the things they can do. So I think it goes both ways.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's good to admire traits in somebody else. I think that's a very positive way to connect with that being. So, but yeah, that's kind of what was going on when you and I were in that same group together.
So now we'll bring us up to what's going on now.
Well, I have, since I've joined this other exoconscious group and I ran into Kevin and spending more time with Kevin, what's been happening is his stories and his stories about contacts are actually activating some of my own.
Yeah, let me stop you there a little bit because people don't know who Kevin is.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Briggs is an author and an experiencer, and he has vivid memories of even when he was a childhood of his experiences with the ETs, and he is specifically with the Council of Lay. I have 2 videos in my past I have done with him, interviewing him. He's extremely interesting, and so you might want to go back and look at Kevin Briggs. I'm going to have him on again in the future, but yeah, we've done several interviews, and his journey is amazing. I mean, his is, I think, 9 years old when he first started contact with them.
8 or 9 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you can go ahead.
Yes. Well, I didn't realize until I ran into him that I was actually contacted by the Council of 8 about 10 years from the I was contacted by the Council of 8 about 10 years ago. It was one being in particular. His name is Ort. He is the one that Kevin has primary contact with. It was after I was in a car accident that just turned my entire life upside down. I ended up being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis afterwards. I had just a huge, many, many, many health problems. And I had to retire. I couldn't work anymore as a teacher. So I was very depressed at that time. I mean, sitting on the couch and zoning out in front of the TV is how I spent a lot of my time. And then one day I felt nudged to go in my meditation room. I've been practicing meditation for a couple of decades now, and I even gave that up. I was just really, really in a bad place. But this one morning, I felt nudged to go in my meditation room. And as soon as I sat down on my cushion and I closed my eyes, this being appeared. I was afraid to open my eyes. I was afraid of what I would see. It was so intense. And it was this unconditional, compassionate love just permeated me. And then he had a couple of messages. He said something along the lines of, "This is not a punishment," referring to what I was going through. And he said that a couple of times, which I thought was interesting because that was kind of where I was going with that whole experience, thinking that I was being punished. So he clarified that for me. And then he also made a reference to what I perceived to be the big guy. Again, this was all telepathic. There weren't many words that he said, but I did pick up on something along the lines of, the big guy is pleased with your progress. And I have no idea what that means even to this day. At the time, I didn't know about the Council of Eight, so I thought he was maybe an angel or a guide referring to God. And so I really didn't know what was going on with that, but it made a huge impression on me. And then several years later, in 2020, actually, another being from the Council of Eight approached me. This was the mantis being. His name is Chica. And it was a very, very unusual experience. I mean, I'm out on my balcony watering my plants, and all of a sudden in my mind's eye, very, very clear, I see the face of a praying mantis, with a triangular face, with the big bulging eyes, and his pincers were opening. I mean, it almost looked like a bug that was about to eat something. And
did you realize it was a praying mantis? Because the first one I met, I called it a grasshopper. I kept calling it a grasshopper. I kept going to a friend going, "Meg, I just met a grasshopper." And she goes, "The proper term is praying mantis."
Yeah, no, I didn't know. I didn't think of it as a grasshopper. Interesting. Yeah. But normally I would be terrified to have that kind of imagery in my mind. But what happened was I felt this overwhelming feeling of compassionate love and unconditional love. And I realized that's what that being was doing. And he was smiling when he was opening up his pincers. He was actually smiling and projecting this frequency towards me. And after that initial event, even during meditation, he has showed up a number of times, to the point where I am able now to feel compassionate love as soon as I start to feel scared. It's like there's something in my mind that just clicks. And most recently, I had an experience where I ended up somehow during my astral travels. I didn't mean to, but I ended up on a ship of insectoids. And when they all sort of came at me to figure out what I was doing there, that's what happened. Instead of being terrified, I mean, imagine a bunch of 2 feet, 3 feet long, big, tall bugs coming at you. I could feel the fear and the terror rising, but it switched immediately into compassionate love.
Because they were your family, or because they were your family?
No. These guys were mercenaries.
Yes. They were part of your family.
I don't know. They have a job, and their job actually aligns with one of the conspiracy theories that's going out there right now. So I don't really want to get into it to that extent. But I did meet another mantis being. And the same thing happened. This being walked in, and it was like, oh my gosh, like my programming just kicked in. Now, it's interesting that you say they're my family, because that is not what I experienced from them at all. However, for me to end up accidentally on a ship like that, there had to have been some common frequency that we shared.
Right.
So, there are no accidents. There's a reason why I ended up there. And it turns out that they're actually not on my special particular timeline. which is something that intrigued them even more because as a human being, I'm not supposed to be able to do that. I don't know what I did and how I did it. Okay. So, but they were surprised to see me there. So, the takeaway from me was, wow, I can transform the energy of fear and terror into the energy of compassionate love, into the frequency of compassionate love. And wow, that's really coming in very handy.
They just hit me with something. They
Yeah,
said that you went down to earth to come back and teach them those things. You took
that
on the
does not
human.
surprise me.
Yeah.
That resonates. That totally resonates because I often feel connected to other beings who are tapping into my experiences here and they are learning from me the way
Right.
that and it's not just me. I think there are a lot of us who have those connections.
Well, right.
Because, like you and I were talking earlier, I'm really not all that unique. I was not in some sort of ET school when I was a child. I don't remember being abducted or having imaginary friends or nothing. I mean, seriously, I had very little interest in UFOs and ETs until 2020.
Same
So,
here. 2020 for me too.
yeah, something definitely happened to a lot of us that year, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm like a lot of the people who, star seeds who, come onto your channel and, I don't see beings walking around me in my bedroom. I am feeling more and more aware of the connections that I'm having, but this has been a gradual process for me. It's not like with you, Gail, all of a sudden, boom, a whole entire realm of reality opened up for you. For me, it's been a very, very gradual process. And what I'm finding is that my experience is not unique and that these conversations that we're having, in groups or social media or in programs like yours, we're helping one another to remember, to activate some of the things that have been suppressed before, because of our conditioning, from our society or childhood or whatever. We are beginning to activate one another, and it's beginning to happen exponentially. It's
Right.
spreading like wildfire. And that's why I was really glad when you invited me to come back on your show, because all these things have been happening with the Council of Eight since you and I spoke. It's totally new for me. I never expected to find a group of people who had interactions with these same beings, and it's been very, very validating. And basically, my understanding is, and this is all of us who are connecting with the Council of Eight, is it's our job right now to spread the word that these guys are here, that they are actively reaching out to individuals. They've tried to go via the governments, but the setbacks there, have nothing to do with mutually beneficial open contact. So they're going directly to the people. And it's not just the Council of Eight. There's so many groups out there and so many councils. And what they've told us is that they are joining together. They are in our atmosphere. They are in our solar system. They are on the surface, and they are directly interacting with us. They do have the ability to appear human. And, there are times when I walk around and I wonder, is that person a human? Because I'm getting kind of an interesting vibe from them. And so that's been, it's going to be happening more and more and more. And the more we talk about it and the more we share these experiences and these contacts that we have with one another, the more energy we put into these ideas of mutually beneficial and friendly open contact, and the sooner those things are going to happen in the way that we want them to. There is one group of beings who is actually recommending that we don't engage in conspiracy theories.
Exactly.
And because, there is a lot of negative energy that those ideas, you know, it can spread. Basically, you're investing your energy in something negative, and the more energy we invest in something negative, the more likely it is to actually manifest. So right now, especially, it's really important, from what I understand, to turn our focus to things that are positive. And I'm not suggesting, we hide our head in the sand and ignore all the problems that are around us, but, really spend more time in these kinds of situations where we're talking to one another and it's positive and supportive and encouraging. And it's fun. It's fun. It's good to have these kinds
Well,
of
it's also
conversations.
what I say is to pull yourself out of it and look from it, like pretend like you're an ET looking down and looking at what's going on, the conspiracy theory or whatever, and pull your emotional and look at it in a different direction. And sometimes you'll go, "Oh my gosh, I put how much energy into that." It's a different perspective. It's a different perspective to pull out, especially looking at it from their eyes. That how sometimes trivial some of it is.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a very, very good point. One of the things that the Council of Eight has encouraged me to do is to draw their portraits. Now, this is very unusual what happened to me. I was at a friend's house for a CE5 a few months ago, and all of a sudden I went from drawing stick figures to drawing portraits of ETs, literally like overnight. It was just incredible. So at first I started drawing portraits of, these basically miscellaneous beings that would just show up, and I would draw them. And once I became more aware of my ongoing contact with the council that I really didn't realize for a really long time, I started drawing their portraits. So I have a couple of them to share with your audience if you would like.
Yes.
The idea behind these portraits is that it's important. We're very visual, and it's important for us to have some sort of visual reference for these beings who are reaching out to us. And even though my portraits may not necessarily be exactly accurate as far as what these beings look like, it's important to spend time and energy with that thought of reaching out to another being and to have a common frame of reference that we can focus our energy on. So I encourage you to draw your own. You might be surprised what comes out, but let me show you. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm going to send you a comment to Rita here. Rita, I see, she says it's good to have a place to talk about experiences. Nobody around me believes ETs are real. Yeah, Rita, that's what this channel's been created for, is being a safe place for you to come and talk to and express your experiences. And we have a lot of good moderators. We have Susie here that are watching everything that's coming in. So, thanks for putting that out there, and I appreciate it. So, good, safe place to talk about experiences.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And so I've been putting these portraits up on social media, even though I was reluctant, or it encouraged me to, and I am blown away by the response that they're getting.
Yeah, so, can you tell everybody where you're posting your pictures? On your Facebook
yes.
page?
My Facebook page, my name is Aurora Belcia Whittiple, and I think Gail, maybe, there it is. So I know I can't hide my last name. It's all my husband's fault. I've been posting these portraits on Facebook, but mostly I've joined a lot of the groups on Facebook that are interested in ETs and friendly open contact and so on. And that's how I've been reaching a larger audience, because I don't have a lot of friends. I mean, 50 friends is what I had last time I checked. So Ort encouraged me to just basically reach out and put these things out. And I was reluctant to put myself out there and invite negativity, but I haven't had any negativity, which is incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I get very little on this channel, which I know my guys told me they were protecting me.
Exactly. That's exactly what they told me too. And I can see it. It's happening. So I don't know if you can see it. I've got on my screen, I'm not sure how to share it, so you might want to guide me through this. Can you see what I'm looking at?
No. Do you have the physical drawings that you can put up, or did you do it on the computer?
They're on my computer.
Okay.
So I don't know.
You actually drew it on your computer?
No, I drew them and I took pictures of them. I took photos of them. So they're hand drawn, but
Yeah.
I took photos of them.
Do you have the hand drawn ones that you can?
Yeah, hang on just a second. Let me get my notebook. Hang on.
Okay.
I do have a. Oh my goodness.
And I want y'all to look at the background that she did, because that's absolutely beautiful. She and her son did that.
I'm in my bedroom, so if you want me to remove, I don't even know how to remove my background at this point.
No. I want to look at your background. That's fine.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if you can clearly see them with the background on, but I am going to show them to you in the order that I actually drew them, because they showed up in a specific order. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna. Oh, there we go.
There you go. Right
Can you see that? All right. So this is actually Zark. You'll be able to see these pictures on my Facebook. There we go. I think I finally found the angle. This is Zark, okay? And he is a 5-foot-tall gray from the Pleiades who actually has a sense of humor. And what he's doing here is actually he's trying to cheer me up. I was having a really rough morning.
I'm just laughing because of what Ginger Sky says. She says, I like how Aurora went into her portal to get her pictures.
Oh, I know, right?
That's what it looked like.
Oh, I love it. That's so cool. So anyway, this is Zark demonstrating how to lighten up with the light bulb. Okay. There's a lot more to these guys, and the way the process that I went through with drawing these portraits in and of itself is pretty fascinating. And you can see the stories. I actually wrote it down on my posts.
So can you tell us a little bit about that picture?
Yeah. So like I said, Zark he's a 5-foot-tall gray, and he is a mathematician. He works on developing propulsion systems. He lives in the Pleiades, where he has 3 offspring. He doesn't call them children. He calls them offsprings. And he has a sense of humor. It's amazing to connect with this gray who doesn't feel blank. The image that he put in my head is actually what I ended up drawing. And he has this ability to communicate telepathically, I guess, where I can feel his emotions. Not only did I look at the picture and think it was funny, but I could also feel why he thought it was funny. Mm-hmm. And when you see the humor in it from 2 different angles, it makes it that much more hilarious. Plus, there's this sense of the sympathetic joy of sharing something that's very personal and very intimate to him. It's pretty vulnerable to expose yourself like that and make fun of yourself with somebody that you've barely met. And he showed me how to do that, and how he had the self-confidence to just go ahead and do it, and basically be silly and introduce himself that way to the world, because that's what these portraits are for, is for me to actually introduce the Council of 8 to others. So that's kind of the process that I went through with him.
Yeah, does he have a role on the Council 8? I know you said he was a mathematician, but is the Council 8, did each one of them have or have you gotten into that detail yet?
No, not yet. That's all I know about him. Now, there are the other members of the Council of 8 that I've ran into. This one is Dee. I don't know if you can see her. She's a 5th dimensional Arcturian. And when I drew her, she seemed really proud to be an Arcturian, actually wanted me to put Arcturus in her background.
You're actually a hybrid of Arcturian, aren't you?
Yes.
And so am I.
Yeah. And I'm discovering that I have some links with the Anunnaki too.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting, pretty fascinating. But a lot of people who saw her portrait commented on the light codes behind her. They saw that constellation boots. I mean, I had to take some creative license to make it fit, but they saw that constellation as light codes. And I never imagined that. So she insisted that I put that there. That was her. So they show up and they pose for the portrait. And again, some of them really are very specific about what they want to see. So she really wanted to put her constellation in the background. And then I drew her husband, Ort. He is the one that I know the most about, really. I haven't interacted with Dee other than her portrait, but this is Ort. And this is actually the second portrait that I drew of him, because the first one didn't do it justice.
Right.
He is so compassionate and so handsome and high frequency. I mean, you name it. I'm familiar with how he feels because he's the one that I interact with the most.
Yeah. So
And
is he Arcturian too? Because they look both like they would be Palladians. Yeah. Okay.
well, you know what? A lot of people made those comments on Facebook about them, but they're not. They're from the Andromeda system, and apparently Arcturians do come in different shapes and sizes.
I do. I have met 3 different types. So now this is a 4th type that I met. And I have found that on different planets when I go there, there's so many more, like especially when I first started this is what the Arcturians look like. This is what the play, I was putting them all in a box, just like we want to do, but there is no box. I've just met so many different, when I go to a planet, there's 2 or 3 species that you meet immediately, and it just blows everything out, out what I realized was true. And again, as I said, I've seen 3 different type of Arcturians, and now this is a 4th. So
yeah, it's really pretty amazing. They're 5th dimensional Arcturians from Andromeda, so I don't know if that puts them in a separate category of their own. But he is a teacher and a guide, just like his wife. And he is the one who has been approaching our group the most. He comes forward out of the entire Council of 8. He is the one who's made his presence most known, and I can feel him around. He's here right now. He's listening, and I can feel him. He's right here.
Is he really big? Is he a big guy?
He's tall. He's tall. I would say he's about 7 feet tall, or at least he feels that way to me.
Right.
Because I go by, like I was saying earlier, I don't necessarily see these beings walking around me. I see them in my mind's eye. And a lot of the way that I experience them is through my own intuition and emotions. And based on that, I formulate an image in my mind's eye as to what they look like. But when Kevin channeled him a few weeks ago, he actually specifically thanked me for his portrait. He said he was very pleased with how it came out. Now, I don't know if that's what he looks like, but he approved it. So I was very happy with that. And then I don't
remember. Yeah. Did Kevin have any pictures in his book about what he did? Because I was going to say, I thought I remembered him having some drawings of beings in his book.
Yeah. One of the channelings that Kevin has done, a few years ago, Ort actually said that portrait doesn't do him justice. The portrait that Kevin had in his book. So, it was good to have something to visualize him by, but he said that portrait didn't do him justice. So I really worked hard on finding some way to, illustrate him that he would actually approve of and say that it was okay. And he did.
Okay, so here's Laurie. She's saying, I have seen pictures that look like him on the internet. Mm-hmm. Many must know him to have such a close of likeness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people sounds like trying to contact a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some people have said that he looks like Ashtar Command. I'm not familiar with all of the different names that were out there, but yes, I have. Other people have drawn him, and it's amazing what's happening on social media, how people are actually posting their own drawings of these beings. And it's really, really fascinating. We're all sort of coming together, realizing that we're talking about the same type of beings, sometimes even the same exact being. The last one I drew was of Ra, and I just finished this one. It took forever. Ra is an Anunnaki. Let me see if I can make it show. Yeah, the wings in the background don't really show very well.
There you go. Oh, we're getting glimpses of it.
There we go. Yeah, you're kind of getting glimpses of it. He is an Anunnaki. He's a 9th dimensional being. He is, I guess, the big guy that Ort referenced when he came to see me in my meditation room. Mm-hmm. And it was hard to draw this one because he's not incarnated. Well, I guess, if you're thinking about how everything happens simultaneously, that kind of doesn't really make sense. But if I were to speak of him in linear terms, he has had so many different incarnations that when I try to draw his portrait, if I only focused on one type of energy, like Egyptian, for example, it felt incomplete, like I was leaving other things out. So I had to include a number of other ideas in his portrait, and it came out the way that it did. But he identifies himself as Anunnaki. And I got to say that during this particular portrait, I became aware of my own identity as Anunnaki. I remembered a lifetime where Ra was there, not as Ra the Pharaoh or Ra the God. It was just another being that was a projection of his consciousness. And so, what I recommend is that, don't worry about it if you don't think you can draw. The amount of time and the energy that it takes to put together a portrait of your favorite ET is what's going to facilitate the connection that you can make with that being.
Right.
Because when we are, go ahead.
I was going to say, Hypnicity saying, my crown just popped and tingled when viewing that picture.
Yay. Awesome. That's great. That's why they've encouraged me to share these drawings with everybody. People are having these reactions. But even so, when you make your own drawing, when we're being creative, we're basically operating in our right brain. And that's the part of our brain that I think has been suppressed and crippled basically by our conditioning, because we live in this world that is just very left brain oriented. Everything has to be empirical evidence. We've been taught to ignore our intuition and just basically reject our imagination as totally useless. And Ord actually wanted me to bring up the point that our imagination is actually our greatest power as creator beings. And when you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're imagining that you're someplace else, or you're imagining having a conversation, a positive interaction with a being, that may not necessarily just be a figment of your imagination. In fact, he's emphasizing that, those are the types of things that we should be pursuing and investing our energy into, because that is how many of us feel when these beings from other realms, from higher realms, are reaching to us. We think it's just in our own imagination, but it's not. And that's one of the things that he really wanted me to emphasize, is that it's okay to give yourself permission to ignore all of this negative programming that we've been subjected to, and go ahead with your gut instinct and follow your intuition and give in to your imagination and daydreaming about these beings. Because what you're going to notice is the same thing that I noticed. Once I gave myself permission to just go with it, these interactions became increasingly more and more real. And now I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I am connecting with these beings. Where when you and I met, Gail, if you remember, I was just so full of doubt, and I had, what is going on? I'm going crazy. You remember?
I remember how full of doubt you were, and you were just very timid at first expressing what was happening, until I started going, this is all that's happened to me. And you're like, okay, mine doesn't sound that crazy.
And it was because of that particular group, that exoconscious group that we were in, that their support allowed me to give myself permission to go and follow through with some of these things that everybody else around me was telling me is just nonsense. And it's not nonsense,
I think that's also what happens in this show, is hearing these stories allows people to experience their own, or know that it's okay to experience what's going on with them.
Yeah. And it's okay to explore. It's okay. When we were little, we had imaginary friends, or we played pretend. Those are actually very useful skills that we were beginning to develop as creator beings. And we've been conditioned to ignore and suppress those skills, because whatever is going on around us right now in the system, we are discouraged from recognizing ourselves as creator beings for whatever reason. It really doesn't matter. But what's happening right now is we're being discouraged from exploring that aspect of ourselves. And once we go in that direction and we start exploring those qualities, it's pretty phenomenal how our perceptions of ourselves changes. And it's very, very empowering. So I strongly recommend you guys get out your crayons and just go for it. I mean, really, this drawing behind me, my son started it when he was in second grade. It was a solar system. I went in and I filled it in with color, and I had a great time doing it. This is before this whole thing with the ET started happening. And then Gail showed me a picture that looks so much like what I just drew that had to do with, parallel lives and how everything happens simultaneously. So no, this thing behind me is just basically child artwork. Do it anyway, share it, and you'll be blown away when somebody else shows you the same thing that they drew. And that's how, we can connect with one another and focus our energies into a positive direction and make those things happen.
Yeah. Are you ready to take some questions?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take some questions. Yeah. Okay. White Dragon. For Aurora, how have you taken a ride on a ship and visited their planet? Council of Nine sounds like a great group.
Well, I haven't taken a ship to visit their planet. What I did experience was an astral traveling, basically, to the place between lives, so to speak, the place where my consciousness actually resides, where the greater me is from. And what I felt there was like I was actually home. The thought came to me like, oh my gosh, this is where I'm from. And I long for that feeling. And I'm sure the rest of you can identify with that. It was amazing. That was home. It was my home. And that's where I ran into some of the members of the Council of Eight. Dee was there with Ort, and Zark was there, and also Ra were there. The other guys were there too, the rest of them, but they were more faded in the background. So I don't know about the Council of Nine. It's not the group that I'm referring to as far as the Council of Eight. But I've been told that there are many, many councils out there, and some of them are better known than others. And,
Right.
We are being encouraged to reach out to them directly. Some of the people are commenting on Facebook about, can you tell them hello for me? And I say, you say hello to them. They are making themselves available. Okay, that's what's happening right now. They are opening up to receiving, comments, anything that's coming from us. They're basically opening up to humanity to make connections with them. They've also told me that it's up to us to initiate that connection because they are not going to interfere with our responsibility and our right for free will. The other reason for it is that they want to relate to us as equals on an equal level. And if we are reaching out to them from the perspective of, please come and save me, that's not appropriate. That's not an appropriate relationship to have with a being who is setting boundaries and wants to interact with us as equals. So, they're encouraging us to step into our own power as creator beings and, relate to them in that way, because that's what we are. And
now, so is the Council of Eight then, since two of them are Arcturians, are they are there Arcturian council then, the Council of Eight?
No, actually there's the two Arcturians and the Gray and the Anunnaki that I mentioned. And the other four beings on that council are, let's see, there's Arna, she is a blue avian. There is Arla, she is a tall white. We have another Gray, his name is Targ. And the Chica, whose portrait I don't have yet.
Okay.
And so, they're, from several different.
It sounds like the council I sat on way in the beginning when it was first contact. There were all different species on that council. But that was way back when I was on the Astara Medical One. First big spaceship that I was working on. Okay, let's go to the next question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say there's other groups out there. The Penti, I think they're called. I'm not sure. I've heard of them. There are a number of Gray factions that are focused on service to others as opposed to service to self. There are some who are service to self, but believe it or not, a lot more Gray communities are actually focused on service to others, and they want to help us out.
Right. Well, I saw the Astro Medical One was the Gray hybrids. And they were definitely service to others. Yep. Definitely. Okay. All right. Do you know when you are on a ship, do you feel pain in your body the way you do while you're in our 3D Earth world? Thank you.
No, I do not, but I have a feeling that doesn't surprise anybody. Um, what happens is 3D is very heavy. And I really didn't realize that until I went out of it, on these ships. Um, there is not the same sense of things being solid, and the heaviness is not there.
Right.
That's one of the things that's characteristic of the human experience is the intensity of our experience. And so we experience intense pleasure, and we also can experience intense pain. So, when we're not in 3D, or at least in this lower aspect of 3D, I guess I could say, um, we don't feel that same intensity. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. We came here, believe it or not, to experience this intensity because it's very useful, a very useful tool for learning all sorts of different lessons. But no, it's not there. The pain isn't there. But I got to tell you, I've learned a lot from my pain in this body. I've learned how to overcome it. And so, I think part of this experience is to take those things that initially seem negative and transform them into something that, is helpful and beneficial, kind of in the same way I was talking about earlier about transforming fear into, compassionate love. But no, I don't feel pain. And it is a beautiful thing. I won't deny it. It's nice not to feel pain. I'm not saying I welcome my pain, but, I'm trying to learn from it.
Well, also, some people have the misconception that they don't have as strong of emotions as we do. But as you were explaining when you were talking about your Arcturian, that love or that acceptance, or it's different. It's not the same as on 3D. Those kind of feelings are different or more intense. I don't ever feel the negative part intensive like we are in 3D. I only feel the positive ones. I don't know if is that your experience too, Aurora?
Yeah, their energy is overwhelming. The positive energy, like what I'm talking about, my Arcturian friend on the ship where I was training. It seems to me, it feels like it's a broader band of positive frequencies, and it's sort of like if you compare a garden hose to a fire hydrant. To me, they feel like the fire hydrant who's just spraying all this glitter.
That's a good analogy there.
Yeah, I'm the garden hose. That's my capacity in this physical form. I mean, this physical body can only vibrate, to a certain frequency, or if it goes any higher, it'll pop out of this reality. So we have some physical limitations we've agreed to, and that's okay. That's all right. But they are overwhelming.
Hi, Ginger Sky. Hi, Aurora. When you visit ships, do you visit them in your physical form as is, or is it in an astral body you are traveling in? And how can you see them as here on Earth they are invisible to us? So there's two questions there. First off, how do you travel? Well, go ahead. You explain how you travel.
I've traveled both ways. And I'm saying that answer out of my knowingness that I have done that, not because I have conscious memories of traveling physically. I just know that I have. As far as the astral body, I do have more memories of traveling in an astral body than in my physical. But what I've noticed is that when I do travel in the physical, when I come back, I physically have trouble readjusting to the heaviness of 3D. I feel sick. I do. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm very tired. And I have actually asked them, if it's possible not to do that anymore, because, it incapacitates me. And I can't, it's very difficult, at least at this stage of my development. I have a harder time with it. Do you experience that, Gail?
Yeah, I do. It took me a while to figure out what was happening. Is when I am astral traveling, I am kind of invisible, not invisible. You can see through my body. And so actually I'm going out exploring, learning, having fun, that kind of things. When I'm going to work, it is actually my soul that's going to work, and it's taking on a physical form, and it can be looking just like I am now. A lot of times it's looking younger than I am, which is really nice. And then there's other planets that I go on, and I'll put on their type of body that's on that planet. So when my soul is traveling, that's the one that might have some physical reactions when I come back. But it needs to be my soul to work and to do the work that you do on the ships. It has to be my soul. It has to be my body that's traveling. But as I said, it's astral traveling is going out observing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know what? I'm so glad you said that about your soul traveling and how it's younger than you are, because that's exactly how I was when I was going to that ship I just described. It was a younger version of me.
Right.
Interesting. See,
yeah. And that's what makes you, and that's where you have the physical reaction when you come back, because that is your soul traveling. It's just astral traveling. You can't work. You can't do the jobs that you're doing on the ships.
Yeah.
Just going out there looking and having fun. That's when I like to go out to the net and sit back there, and it's with my dog Moon. We look at the moon and the stars, or I'll go take a look at this planet or take a look at that. But I can't physically be working there.
Yeah. That, I think, Gail, you should answer that one, because I'm not sure how to answer it.
Hey, Tina, when your soul is traveling, is that considered your light body? That is what I quit using that term light body as much, because it was confusing with astral traveling. Because in my body, when I am traveling, it's my soul or my light body. My body, this is my personal, I'm all white with this blue hue around me. And I travel with two other beings when I'm going like that. And if it's a planet that I need, like I know I've explained the one that I went on, and I had to take off. They rolled a rack in, and there was a whale suit there, and I unzipped my human suit, put it on the rack, and then put my whale suit on and went swimming with the whales. And that was the one that was when it clicked to me exactly what was happening. And so that's my personal experience between astral traveling and my soul body or light body traveling.
Yeah, see, I don't have the same clarity that you have about the different forms that, my consciousness can express itself, as far as the energy body and the astral body and the soul and the light body. I'm not quite sure how exactly to identify those within myself, but I'm beginning to, you just, like today, for example, I just learned from you about, the soul, how it feels. And it makes perfect sense. It's like, yep, I resonate with that. I get that. I see it. So it's been a gradual process of understanding for me. And I honestly think that a lot of us are here to experience this process, because it's a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun, like opening Christmas presents,
Yeah, 100%. Tina, when you're working, as I said before, when you're working, that is your light body or soul traveling. You cannot work in your astral body.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was in my astral body. I went to this water planet, and I remember how excited I was when I realized that I could go through walls. I was flying. Yeah, I was flying around. I had this little blue turquoise tint to me. I mean, I couldn't see myself, but I could see the light that I was projecting onto the walls. And it was some sort of station. It felt like some kind of a laboratory facility. But there was nobody there. It was just, and I think they were there. They just didn't want to scare me, because it was like, okay, I got to get used to the idea that I'm flying around. Interacting with ETs might have been too much for me at that point, probably. So but I know what you mean, because you can go through things, and that can be a lot of fun. That can be a lot of fun.
Actually, I was trained on a spaceship how to go through walls, but we're going to save that conversation for another time. So, because we're about out an hour. Aurora, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
You have so much information for everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Susie, for your help. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, new subscribers and old subscribers too. Love you both. And there is Aurora's Facebook if you want to go and look at her pictures that she has on there. But our
you'll have to
next
send me a friend request.
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Friend request. And so anyway, thank you everybody, and we will see you. I believe it's on Wednesday. Thank you, Susie. You can see me thinking. March 6th at 1, and it'll be a Solaris Healing Center. So go ahead and join us. Anybody, and bring in your issues that you might be having, physical and mental issues. So anyway, thanks everybody. We'll see y'all later. All right, bye bye. Bye bye everybody.
Bye. Bye.